Our lives are laid out on a road of bumps, turns, struggles, and more. How do we respond? How do we endure adversity for learning and growth? I'm Aubrey Johnson, and we'll explore these questions and more on the road to rediscovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Road to Rediscovery. I'm your host, Aubrey Johnson. The Road to Rediscovery is about reflecting on life lessons to learn and grow from them, and of course, pay it forward and uplift others who are struggling through dark times. I want to share with you that ever since the launch in 2018, this show has gained super momentum and continues to gain momentum, getting in front of more and more people wanting to hear inspiring stories of overcoming adversity and insights on personal growth. I want to personally thank all of you for your great feedback, your kind words, and your good wishes. And with that, I want to humbly ask if any episode has resonated with you, please log on to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review. We want to keep that momentum moving to those who need to hear these amazing stories from these absolutely extraordinary guests. And as always, we are truly, truly grateful for your listenership. All right, moving on to my special guest. She is a certified sex educator and counselor whose work spans sexual shame, trauma, grief, relationship rupture, and body disconnection, with a focus on supporting men in a space that often labels them as dangerous, defective, and emotionally closed. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Fran Frye to the show. Fran, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Aubrey.
Oh, thank you. We are equally thrilled and delighted to have you. And if we can just dive into this stuff, Fran, I'm ready for a great, great conversation of insight. Can you give us a glimpse, first off, into the early part of your journey? What inspired you to pursue doing the work you do today in this space?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I often feel as though I may have been born to be in this work, born to do this. But I think the precipice was in college when I was sexually assaulted, kind of starting heavy, but hopefully this conversation will ebb and flow with all sorts of topics. But I was raped in college, and it really sent me down a harder path of it really set me back, and I wanted to really understand what had happened for me. And I think the biggest way for me to have gained confidence was to really be able to understand the details behind what happened, why it is that it happens, just understand sex more in general. And so comprehension, understanding really helped that confidence. And so after I kind of got out of that dark hole that I was in, I began volunteering and really learning to trust people again. And strangers, I think, were hard for me. And so I thought volunteering, meeting people, it would be a wonderful way to gain my trust back in people. And so I began that journey. It's probably been about 10 years of really focused volunteerism. And through that, I discovered that sex was a major, I don't know if issue. I had a lot of curiosities when it came to sex in the organizations that I served, and it led me to getting an education, thousands of hours of credits and continuing education to get here. But it's been a beautiful journey, and I feel very grateful.
Wow, that is it's absolutely tremendous in hearing this. I mean, Fran, this is uh, are you naturally a curious person?
I think so.
Yeah.
People fascinate me. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think I would be bored if I didn't learn from folks all the time.
Wow. Again, tremendous. Would it be fair to say that um, someone having endured a traumatic experience,
Mhm.
um, I don't want to say would do the bare minimum, but would do what's required to, get the proper counseling or healing, from that traumatic experience, that's one thing, so they can move on with their life in serving in whatever function they wish to pursue.
Yeah.
In your case, it sounds as if this piqued your interest and just made you more curious as to why would something like this happen? How do people tick where events like this would happen? And I mean, you see, it seems like you really leaned in in such a way to where um, that, in a sense, was part of your healing, maybe.
Absolutely. Thank you for this question too. I love how you're framing everything. Basically, I wasn't going to let someone's inadequacies affect my life,
Right.
a lifetime of sexuality. That
Right.
I'm too competitive to allow for that.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's
Yes.
a major thing. And also, I want to assume that people do the best they can with what they know,
Yeah.
and to believe that someone went out of their way to hurt me.
Yeah.
I can't believe that in folks. I don't know if it's a negative of mine or a positive. I'm not quite sure. But I hope that we all can do better when we know better.
Yes.
And if specifically in this case, men, if they are not given or provided a sex education, how on earth are they going to do better? And
Yeah.
so it was just glaringly obvious to me that if our only education is pornography, which is fine and dandy in some instances,
Hmm.
but if you use it as a source of information and instruction, it's not very helpful.
Yeah.
And so I just was finding a lot of gaps in sex education. And through volunteerism specifically, I answered a rape crisis hotline for 3 years and was a rape victims advocate for 3 years.
Hmm.
And you saw a lot of naughty business going on, a lot of funny business going on. And it was something to learn from. It was very important that I learn from it rather than judge. So yeah, it's I definitely didn't want someone else's inadequacies to affect a lifetime of pleasure for myself. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and the competitive nature that you have, as well as coupled with your curious nature,
Yeah,
yeah, kind of work together to kind of steer you in this direction. It's, I mean, and the very clients and those that you work with, are those. I'm assuming, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But
sure.
are those, i.e., men who was on that end of that traumatic event that happened to you in college?
Absolutely, and I support any and all kinds of men who
Yeah.
have maybe not done their best, who are trying to do better, who
Yes.
are learning to understand themselves, who struggle with compulsivity.
Yeah.
I think the purpose is to provide a place of non-judgment so that we can do better, and it is
My
tough,
God.
my
I'm
goodness.
sorry. Fran, you're giving me goosebumps. I mean, because I mean, I can feel it in your words and in your heart, and what you're saying is true and authentic. I mean, for you to have endured this traumatic experience and to come out of it non-judgmental, I mean, it would be easily justified by anyone to generalize that group because of the traumatic experience, and maybe live by a self-made law or rule that they'll never trust men again or something like that.
Right.
But you did the exact opposite. And so I really must commend you, not for just the great work that you're doing, but the tremendous amount of character and integrity, and resilience that had to have been applied for you to lean in and go in the direction of what you're doing today.
Thank you. I'm a little teary eyed receiving that. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, moving on to this, there was a term that I think I saw on um, um, the
Instagram, maybe?
maybe Instagram, but I'd love for you if you can describe this for us, okay, just to kind of set some context and help those men and women who may not know or understand this term, or maybe they know what it is, but maybe they didn't know there was a term associated with it. Can you describe this patriarchal culture that men could be subject to? I mean, is this culture a source of, I don't know, societal expectations of men, especially from a performance standpoint, or what is this culture?
Yeah, thanks for this. I think, with patriarchy, and we are this patriarchal culture, and we are hypersexual.
Yeah.
And it is and no slam on anything, just
Mhm.
observations of what's going on here.
Mhm.
And there are, I believe, expectations that I've observed and through the fellows that I work with of the performance pressures. You have porn
Right.
induced anxieties, porn induced performance issues. You've got expectations of men always being ready, always saying yes, yes men.
Yeah.
There's all these expectations of men sexually,
Hmm.
and they're the fellas not wanting to have the sex that they're having. So a lot of men, and we don't know this, but in research, a lot of men are having sex that they actually don't want to be a part of. They don't want to be having, but
Yeah.
because they're so expected to be on and horny and performing all the time,
Right.
they're
Right.
having sex. And so if we could just take a step back and understand, there's not, room for judgment here. We just want to understand what it
Yeah.
is that society is teaching us.
Yeah.
And it's something that we can say, hey, I can understand this being helpful to me, or we can say, no, I think I could use a different narrative here. So
Yeah.
I think with patriarchy, it's just understanding how it presents in your cultures, in your communities,
Hmm.
and working towards a different resolution no matter who you are, because patriarchy is not helping men, is and it's not helping women. It's not helping anybody.
No, it truly isn't. And so with that, I wanted to maybe give you a scenario, and maybe if based on this scenario, if you can share with us, number one, have you encountered this? Is it common? And number two, what are some of the ways that we can overcome this scenario? So, you know, men are always performance based, whether it's with the job, whether it's competitively with athletics, or in the bedroom, and things they do around the house. Boys, they have chores to do around the house. They may help their father work on the car in the garage or help them with the yard work outside. Obviously, sisters, they do their chores too, but but uh, as boys grow to men, things are performance based, and sometimes a man's merit, or what he thinks of himself, his self respect or dignity, is sometimes built on that level of performance. And you know, quite honestly, I do believe, let's say if there's a man um, who has a very healthy sexual life in his 20s and 30s, you know 40s start to come around, and 50s start to come around, and different things start to happen, and the testosterone or the vigor isn't there as much, and or the libido. And then of course, you know um, men in general, I think, start to come down on themselves
Sure.
as they get older, knowing they lost a step. okay, they're not as fast as they used to be. They're not as strong as they used to be. They're not as skilled in the sport as they used to be, and the same goes for sexually. And
Mhm.
because of reaching an older age and not performing to the level they performed that they clearly remember in their 20s and 30s, that may contribute to the lesser desire to even engage in that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a scenario I just wanted to draw up and wanted to ask you. Number one, have you encountered this where it's common? Is it common? And number two, what could be done to kind of counter that?
Sure, absolutely. Totally common. And I think one really cool way to counter it is we are often taught this staircase model of sex where
Yeah,
it starts in foreplay and ends in orgasm,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's assuming everything, quote unquote, goes right in between,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so when we get older and our penis misbehaves, our genitals misbehaves, they're a
Hmm.
little bit more erratic than we remember them as.
Hmm.
That staircase model of sex becomes challenging because you're
Yeah,
no longer able to see yourself performing, quote unquote,
yeah.
in a way. So I like to introduce the wheel model of sex where you can sort of pick and this is a sex education term and concept.
Gotcha.
But it's the wheel model of sex where you pick and choose from a variety of sexual things that you can do
Hmm.
with a partner or partners, but it doesn't necessarily end in penetration. It doesn't
Right,
necessarily end in orgasm.
right.
There are more options to do because if someone is wanting penetrative sex one night and their partner isn't into that, our brains kind of say, no, I'm not interested in sex. That's kind of where it ends, right?
Hmm.
But really, if you create a wheel model of sex and it's more expansive, you
Yeah,
can say, hey, I'm not necessarily interested in penetrative sex right now, but I'd love to make out.
right,
I'm not maybe interested in penetrative sex, but I'm down for oral sex.
right, right.
For a massage.
Okay.
So you can use that kind of those same ideas for, hey, I'm tired tonight. My penis is misbehaving. Let's pick and choose from different things that we can do together that's not penetrative, that's not performance based, that
Gotcha.
allows us to kind of be more together in that scenario rather than you're kind of on your own dealing with something that you haven't dealt with before or you
Yeah.
don't think is normal when it's completely normal. You are not a machine. Your penis is not a dildo.
Right.
So uh, genital mishaps and misbehaviors are going to be happening whether you are 20, 30, 60, 80.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, and thank you for clarifying that because it sounds as if this wheel method would introduce more options, other options, and and it's not just this traditional, conventional way of thinking of sex from foreplay to orgasm. Um,
That's right.
yeah, no, that's great to hear. Thank you, Fran, for that clarification. And so now I'd like to, if we can, just kind of break down some of the work that you do with your clients. So in some of the work you do, let's say with men, do you discover in your work that there are multiple, for lack of a better term, layers that you peel back or that you reveal? I guess in my mind, I would think if you work with a man, say with a sexually intrusive behavior, and you work with them and peel back a layer and discover it's due to past trauma, and
Yeah.
then you work through that, and as you work through that you peel back and discover that the trauma is due to guilt, which in turn is due to an event, and which is a deep rooted shame.
Yeah.
I mean, and does your work involve peeling and revealing those multiple levels if they do show, and doing the work to help them heal and move past each of those?
Absolutely. There
Okay.
is, I think you hit the nail when you mentioned guilt and shame. There is a lot of guilt and shame that festers with my clients. And whether that is, first comes into play through religion, whether
Yeah.
that's an attachment wound, whether it's a trauma,
Yeah.
whether it's, the family didn't talk about sex when they were kids. And then also, we are so erotic as people that we don't give ourselves, we're pathologizing everything.
Yeah.
So I think a part of my efforts and my Instagram and YouTube and the books that I read, the point is to educate men on their behaviors, whether naughty or not,
Yeah.
and just understand ourselves. Like there's, a big thing going on right now about men being deceivers and commitments. They're saying that 97% of men have admitted to deceiving women through commitment.
Mm.
And the counter of that is that women are sexual deceivers. So women use sex
Uh,
to
okay.
deceive and men use commitment. So it's not good or bad. It's just,
Right.
hey, this is what's going on. So if you are using commitment to get the sex that you want, maybe we need to learn better terminology, better communication, instead of relying on maybe lies through commitment. So I think a lot of the times, we pathologize the heck out of ourselves, but sometimes it's like, hey, this was just what we were doing when we were cave people. And this
Yeah.
is how we got, our offspring.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to not just pathologize the heck out of ourselves, but if you've got sexual stuff going on and it doesn't feel normal or right, maybe read a book or two and really
Yeah.
try to understand yourself, because most of the I really don't know of one person who's come to me that wasn't normal.
Right.
And I truly get most of the time fellas are like, am I normal? And I'm like, absolutely. And you're
Yeah.
great and you're sweet and you're smart, all the things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways, I kind of got off on a tangent, but absolutely, if they come in with intrusive thoughts, it can be religion, family, trauma,
Yeah.
attachment wounds, and it can just be being a guy. And
Yeah.
hey, this is what I'm working with. And we're told not to think about the purple elephant. And that's all we're going to do is think about the purple elephant. And you just
Mhm.
have to kind of understand patriarchy and how it all
Right.
plays a part.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. Sounds like a lot of these men prior to coming to you have come to some point of self-awareness,
Yeah.
um, to realize, something needs to be done about their current situation. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. And they something has ruptured. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a relationship that
Mhm.
they've caused some issues with.
Mhm.
Maybe they are out of a divorce recently and
Mhm.
their naughty behavior has affected their previous marriage.
Mhm.
Or a lot of the times, the fellows I work with are feeling like they're having too much sex or kind of meaningless sex,
Yeah, yeah.
and they want to get better connected in their bodies and better under, like, putting on their oxygen mask on themselves before helping others. I cannot
Right.
tell you how many men come in focused on outside pleasures when I just want them feeling here. I want them feeling their own yeses, their own nos.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And to your point, put that oxygen mask on themselves, first, and have those moments of realization in who they are, where they are, what they need help with, and not looking outward so much for satisfaction.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I think we are taught, and there's a book, and I love the book, but it's called She Comes First.
Hmm.
And I really think that we all need to be responsible, radically responsible for our own orgasms, our own pleasure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of pressure that the women should be satisfied first. And I experience it in my own sex life. I
Mhm.
experience it in with my clients.
Mhm.
And I really think the idea of putting on your oxygen mask before helping others is a really good reminder for fellas that your pleasure matters just as much in the
Right.
bedroom, and to really explore that.
Yeah. No, for sure. Fran, this is fascinating. I mean, I'm thinking as you're saying these things, I'm thinking that here's this here's this professional having very deep, intimate, personal conversations
Mhm.
with these with these men and clients that um has to be built on a foundation of trust and a safe space. And I mean, because I don't think anyone's just going to come off the street and say, "Hey, this is me and my life," and blah blah blah. They need to, even men need to feel safe to share or disclose.
Mhm.
And so again, I have to commend you again for creating that space,
Thank
creating that trust, and making men feel safe to where they can disclose things that quite honestly makes them feel vulnerable in some cases.
Totally. It is a privilege. I don't have to be accepted in this community by any means, so I consider it a great privilege and honor. And also, when I was, going through my rape, post rape,
Mhm.
and any sexual things that I've needed support with,
Mhm.
I often think to myself, I wish I had a me, not in an arrogant way, but I
Yeah.
remember, being in a rape crisis room situation and
Mhm.
thinking, man, I could have used a me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I just think to myself how important and how validating it has been for me to be seen and heard sexually, and how life changing that has been, even through my own education. I mean, I
Mm.
consider myself the luckiest person in the world when I'm with my clients, because not only I'm learning from them,
Yeah.
I also have tons of education that has helped me.
Right.
So I know how validating and how affirming and how much it means when someone sees you sexually for who you are.
Yes. Yes.
So if we're going to change the world sexually, it's going to have to be through compassionate ears, because there is so much going on in our noggins, which is our largest sex organ,
It
followed by
truly
our
is. That's
genitals,
right.
right? There's so much going on, and to
Yeah.
um, make people feel like they're alone in their kinky thoughts and kinky behaviors is such a disservice.
Yeah, no, that's a huge disservice, and that's what this show is all about. Having
It is.
amazing people such as yourself who have overcome such trauma, such adversity, to get to the point in their life where they become the solution of something they wish they had when they were going through the adversity you
Yeah.
know and so yeah, I don't think it's anything nowhere near the realm of being vain to say I wish there was a me that I had, because you went directly to become that solution for something that would have been nice if you had. I mean, it wasn't there in some degree at the time, but
Right.
with you, thank goodness it is.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it, Aubrey.
Oh, absolutely. So here's a part that I want to kind of talk about, and for you male listeners out there, okay, hold on to your seats. Okay, don't get flustered or anything. This is totally for education, totally to understand. I don't know, the male psyche, mindset, what triggers what. Okay, but um, with all that Fran knows and all the insights that she has and all the clients that she's worked with, um, I think these questions are worth and bear asking. So I will start by saying this. First off, Fran, have you ever heard of locker room talk?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're familiar with it. Um, as you know, men are not as quick to talk about their pain or emotional struggles as women are to other women, right?
Yeah.
But they sure will talk some trash when it comes to competition, performance, how strong they are, their jobs, sports, and of course, I guess pleasing the ladies, quote unquote. So I'm asking this respectively, okay? Um, Generation after generation are or have men perpetuated, have we perpetuated ourselves with this talk that may meander into our heads, like you said, the strongest sexual organ in our body, cause
Yeah.
us to behave unrealistically when interacting with women?
Sure. And you mean sexually?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you know, bragging rights who you have had sex with. I think
Yeah.
there's this book. I love this book, The Evolution of Desire.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great one, but they
Uh-huh.
talk about mating strategies and
Hmm.
locker room talk and being able to brag about your sexual conquests
Yeah.
is certainly a taught to men from a young age to be able to brag about, and it's certainly happens all the time, very relatable. And is it holding men back in relating to women? Absolutely. This kind of reminds me of I heard one time that if you want boyfriend advice, ask your dad and not your mom.
Right.
And so it kind of falls in that line too, because if you're with all the boys talking about sex, I don't know that you're going to learn so much, but maybe if you're with women talking about sex, you learn some, and vice versa. I'm not saying women know
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But I think it can certainly be helpful to bring a perspective in, such as a women's perspective on sex. Absolutely. And it would hold you back. And I think it takes fellas getting in those locker room situations and kind of breaking up that chatter. I think
Yeah.
men going in and stepping up in the ways that they feel comfortable is a brilliant way to combat that, and also learning conversation, learning sexual communication tools.
Right.
The book Desire is another really great book that you can read. I don't have it with me. You can read with a partner that does teach you better sex communication tools so that you don't have to rely on locker room talk to
Good.
really understand how to quote unquote treat a woman, treat a partner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are great not alternatives, but solutions to kind of I don't know, slow down the momentum of that kind of talk, right? Reading those books, maybe a man stepping up in the locker room, and speaking up, and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You remind me, Aubrey, in hospice care. I'm a hospice volunteer and a death doula. And one of the acronyms that we rely on is WAIT. And it's why am I talking?
yeah. Oh, nice. I
And
like
I
that.
I think of it all the time because
Hmm.
then if I'm gossiping or if I'm talking about crap I don't need to be talking about, I
Yeah.
often think, wait, why am I talking?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
the next time a man's in a locker room and he's feeding that, he can think of, wait, why am I talking?
yeah. That's thought provoking. I mean, just that acronym, it gets you to stop and really think. Okay, am what I'm saying now, what I'm saying now, do I really have to say it? Is this something
Yeah,
I really need to say, or I'm just hearing myself talk, want to hear myself talk? You know, um,
definitely.
yeah, is there value behind what I am saying? If no, then might want to clam up. I don't know,
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
something like that. So hmm, fantastic, Fran. I appreciate that breakdown in the locker room talk, guys. I appreciate your understanding and why we're asking this question, and we got some clarification there for sure. So another question I had regarding, I don't know, just these sort of I don't know, naughty thoughts, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
That crossed my mind in the form of a question, not crossed my mind in form of committing. Is
Exciting.
all right, without calling out any specific names or cases, okay, but and I'm sure you're no stranger to this. Over the years in the media and so forth, we've heard stories of, say, married men of prominence, right? Political, industry, and or financial power, sexually involved with a different woman. And I wanted to know, what is the common denominator in each of these occurrences? Where is there some sort of, I don't know, feeling of entitlement that men of prominence feels they have because of influence, because of finance, because of socioeconomic standing? What caused this to be such a common story to pops up every time, almost every time we turn around?
Sure. I think that relates back to mating strategies. I think
Okay.
that there is certainly the idea of men's status and women's beauty.
Hmm.
And when men can have the status and the women's beauty, there is something to be said about that. There is the prestige. They've made a name for themselves. They've kind of achieved what patriarchy and society and evolution has kind of encouraged men to achieve in a way. And so I think a lot of the times it's, you know, I think a common denominator when you ask that question, my first thought was it has nothing to do with the women.
Right. Okay.
That was my very first thought
That's
is
your first thought, yeah.
it's not personal.
Right.
So I assume that there is something within the man, again, not good or bad. We just are curious about what it is that would encourage them to get, positive feelings from that experience. It would increase their testosterone by looking at a beautiful woman. There are mating strategies, there are strategies in those behaviors. And then also behaviors that if they're allowed, they're going to be continued. So I always say that rape continues in our culture because it is allowed.
Okay.
You just can't avoid it. It's allowed. So if there is not there are not repercussions, there
Right.
are not, yeah, repercussions, then it's going to keep happening. And it
Right.
happens, in sports, for instance.
Right.
The infidelities in sports
Yeah.
are higher. The amount of rapes in sports atmosphere are higher.
Yeah.
So there are things at play. There are it because it's accepted. There is more testosterone. There are more pressures
Yeah.
within organizations to be behaving poorly. I mean, I think there are men's NBA basketball teams that purposely go out and try to get you to hook up with women while you're out on, touring, whatever. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're out playing,
Yeah.
when you're not home,
Yeah.
and so the pressures of that. I mean, can you imagine if you're on a team and you've got all these millionaires around you, and there's that pressure? I mean, I would give in too.
Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of pressure, and to me, it almost kind of encourages and perpetuates what you mentioned earlier with oh gosh, mating strategy. You
Yeah,
know, yeah, because it's almost bringing to the surface the very early on biological sexual between male female chromosome type of song and dance, that happened way in the early stages of civilization, I guess. you,
Yeah,
where the man is has as many conquests as possible, and he'll battle other men for the group, or for the females, and
exactly.
yeah, and kind of primitive, in some ways of thinking. But to your point earlier, with the basketball team and going to road games and
There.
tournaments, I mean, yeah, you have a lot of influence between your teammates, coaches, who knows, that a lot of this is happening.
It's so tough.
Yeah,
And then no one has the communication and no one knows themselves. So we've
right.
not been taught this about ourselves. Hey, this is what you might be up to. And if you find yourself up to it and it's pissing people off, here's what you can do instead.
Yeah,
Or hey, if you want to be up to this, you can be up to this, but this is going to be the repercussions. But
yeah.
like we just ignore sex as a society so that when we're behaving quote unquote badly, everyone's shocked. And
Then
you're
they're
like,
shocked, right?
right? You're like,
Yeah,
but you're creating the framework for the naughty behavior to
yeah,
happen. You're creating the communication for the naughty behavior to happen. Like
yeah,
we're setting it up. So
yeah.
it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. And then we punish people.
Right. Yeah. I,
It's
I
like,
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're creating that environment, to where promiscuity can happen and does happen. And I don't know, we're kind of really relying upon, I don't know, one's integrity, or I mean, if an athlete is married and they have uh, they have a 4 game stand on the road,
yeah.
they're in LA, but they live in New York, and they're in LA out west for a 3 game stand, 4 game stand, I mean, um, anything can happen, that's yeah, and the environment's created for that. The pressure is there. So yeah, I mean, and then we can't be surprised when we hear a story break out that it happened, right?
And we are.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
blows my mind. I'm like,
yeah,
come on, y'all. We set them up for this. Now
yeah,
we're pissed.
yeah. And now we're saying, oh, shame on them, right? Yeah. Number one, you weren't in that situation, because
Yeah.
you'd probably do it too. And number two, like you said, that space was created for something like that to happen. I mean, it was just kind of like the devil in the details, or so to speak.
I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, man. All right. So maybe you answered this, but this is kind of alluding to um, what I wanted to talk about regarding the days, the weeks, the months
Hmm.
after working with a client.
Uh-huh.
I believe your client would need to rely on something a lot more than just willpower, right?
Yeah.
Whenever there's to prevent a relapse of whatever that habit may be. Um, do you have an example of a tool or a method that that these men can use to help eliminate past temptations and behaviors, and continue on that pursuit of a healthy sexuality?
Sure. I love the question. There is something too that I think is really important that when fellas are coming to me and they have, different sexual behaviors that they're up to and they're not loving them, whether it's
Yeah,
compulsive porn use,
yeah,
compulsive sex, what is really, really, really important to me is abstinence is not the goal at the end of this.
right.
Integration is.
Integration. Gotcha.
So if the the idea of that they're starting here and they have to be here and there's so much pressure, shame, guilt to get there, I don't want that journey for
Right.
them.
Right.
I often say to my clients, I want you around for a good time, not a long time,
Right. Right.
because this is real niche work.
Hmm.
And so as far as something to think about or a tool, or I really think that a pause, something easy. A
Yeah.
pause is one of the best ways to kind of think about, what am I doing? Why am I doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just take a breather, take a pause. So if you feel the behavior, naughty behavior coming up, if you have those racing thoughts, pausing and breathing is hands down the best tool that
Mm,
you can do.
love it. Love it.
I know it's so
Yeah.
easy, and I don't mean it to be this easy or basic, because
No, I understand. Pausing and breathing, to me, is underrated in a lot of ways. I
yes,
mean, there's effective pauses and there's controlled breathing that really supports the mindset. It supports what you're thinking, and it truly gives you time to really kind of step outside yourself and say,
that's right.
what's going on here? What am I doing? Is this helping
Right.
or hurting me? Questions like that.
I love that, and riding the wave. Like, there are
Yeah,
so many of us who feel uncomfortable with just sitting in an emotion,
yeah,
even good.
right.
So it's just riding the wave. Emotions are temporary. You don't gotta take
That's
action.
right. That's right.
I think emotions, what I like to think of emotions and thoughts and our ideas in our mind is like a conveyor belt.
Hmm.
You have a choice. There's all these words and letters on this conveyor belt, and you pick it up and you're like, oh, I could think of this today.
Sure.
Or maybe not. Maybe I don't want to think it. That's how
Yeah.
much power and control we have over what we think about. And our brain is lying to us constantly.
Oh yeah.
So if we can become friends with our brain and realize that, hey, maybe I just need a pause here. I
Yeah.
can ride the wave. Emotions are temporary. It's not going to kill me. I
Yeah.
don't have to act just because this emotion is coming up.
Right.
And then breathing through it. And then it just gets you just some space between
Yeah.
you and your behavior. And then maybe you can say, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And understand, is this helping or hurting me? Journaling's great. I know maybe that's not necessarily on the top of everybody's list, but your mind is very busy, and it's really helpful to write out what it is you're thinking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm a big believer of journaling, and it's interesting what your mind goes through as you're writing it, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a fleeting thought that crosses your mind, but to have that thought and to actually slow your thinking down long enough to write it, you're thinking it as you're writing it. Again, there's some subconscious reinforcement that seems to happen, that really conveys that thought to your mind when you go from brain to hand. I feel, at least.
It totally, and you
Yeah.
remind me, I don't know where I heard it, and I wish I could give credit, but I heard that your non-dominant hand is your subconscious. So
Interesting.
if you write with your subconscious or your
Mhm.
non-dominant hand, you may find that other truths come out, deeper truths come out.
Really? I might try that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm left-handed naturally. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I may give that a shot and see what other kind of thoughts, come out as I journal. So that's
Please do.
yeah, yeah. I've never heard that. I think I've learned something new today, Fran.
Okay, good.
Uh, very nice. Um, Wanted to ask you about your blog. There was something in your blog I found truly fascinating, that you wrote about successful men and male loneliness. One of the things I found fascinating about it was that the type of loneliness, that successful men may go through isn't typically the type that we would think, and it was quite relatable to me, which is
Mm.
why I found it fascinating. So, can you give the listeners some insight on how success can actually widen the gap, of loneliness for men?
Sure. Well, parts of me, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you how you related to that.
Oh yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd be curious.
Yeah, well, one of the ways, and let me just say, I am of no super major windfall of success. I'm not a self-made millionaire or anything like that. But growing up, going to college, graduating, having a career, one career for 21 years in one company, and then working close to 20 years at the second company. Just over time, that builds success and tenure. And as I don't know, as a husband and father, there's roles and jobs you have at work that you do, and roles and jobs you have at home. And as I got older and built a family and now become empty nesters, thinking you have all this free time now that you're empty nesters, um, it's I not having as much as much guy time, to guy time to where we have um, true deep rooted conversations. I mean, a lot of the conversations are, I don't want to say superficial, but they're on the surface a little bit. We talk about sports, we talk about, just, I don't know, current events, the weather, just things like that. But as I got older,
Mhm.
my kind of circle of friends have gotten thinner and thinner and thinner, and in some cases I've heard that's common. In other cases I've heard, no, we keep our friends, blah blah blah, forever. And sure, I have acquaintances and everything, but I've just kind of noticed the pattern of the circle of friends thinner and thinner over the years. As I've gotten older. Plus, as I've gotten older, quite honestly, I'm more content at home than
Yeah,
than going out and spending money and stuff. I mean, which I will do, but it's more the exception than the rule. So I know that was kind of a verbose response, but
it
I
was
mean,
perfect. Thank you for letting me
if
put
that makes sense.
it does
Sure.
beautifully. Yeah, it's so I imagine your story to be very relatable. Because you are successful. I don't mean to project judgment onto you, but I see you as a success. And so I thought your insight would be important. And you've touched upon very many things. The more you know, I think too, it's harder to unsee things. It's
Yeah.
harder not to know things. So
Right.
as you get more successful, I think you are more aware of opportunities. You're more curious. You see bigger and better. And when that happens, the folks that aren't keeping up certainly fall behind. And it can be really, really lonely up at the top.
Mhm.
And the men that I work with are often very successful. They're the CEOs, the CFOs, and they have led a life of being a yes man,
Yeah.
and they're not quite even sure of what their no's are.
Yep.
And so I think in order to truly understand your yeses, you have to understand your no's. And so, like you said, you may find that you have time as an empty nester to be doing the things that you want, but then you're not really meeting your own needs,
No.
which I hear in you, and it's such a common story. And I think that's why I keep reiterating that putting your oxygen mask on yourself before helping others, focusing on your pleasures before your partners. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean forgetting about everybody.
Right. Right.
It's just you can only be as happy. Your partner can only be as happy as you are.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense, and again, coming back to that oxygen mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in the simplest of ways of thinking, I guess, that I guess I could relate it to is, oh, I don't know, back when I was a young parent,
Mhm.
So, young parent, you you want to be there and be your best self, best version of a parent while raising your child. And sometimes, you have to ask, "Hey, mom, can you watch him for a while we go have dinner or catch a movie?" Need that time to decompress so that you can reset and be yourself, be your best self
Absolutely.
when you do have the child with you, right? So, as a spouse, I think that needs to be done as well, so
Mhm.
you can show up as the best version of a spouse when you are together, and vice versa. So, yeah, that's that oxygen mask, at least that I'm interpreting when that you're mentioning.
You got it,
So,
Aubrey.
uh, well, Fran, thank you so much. This has been an absolute delightful conversation.
Thank you.
I think we brought a lot of things to light in terms of the work that you do, how you help men change the mindsets of some of the habits and ways that they may have conventionally or traditionally done, methods and tools to help them move in the right direction for healthy sexuality, and just your intrepid resilience of being non-judgmental, leaning into just traumatic experiences that you've endured for the benefit of others. And if I'm not mistaken, Fran, it sounded like earlier on in our conversation, you mentioned that you've actually volunteered for some different organizations in the beginning stages of of doing what you do now, shortly
Mhm.
after your rape. Is that
Yes. Yes, and, I was raped by a man, but my best friend who was a woman was also involved.
okay?
And so I came out of that not trusting a single soul.
Right, right.
And so, if anything, I think the woman's part was more traumatic on me than maybe the rape itself.
Okay.
So that was interesting. But anyways, I came out of that not trusting folks, and
Sure.
I thought the only way that I'm going to is to just put myself in very uncomfortable situations because I'm not going to do so otherwise. And so
Yeah.
I started through volunteering, and I think marginalized folks are, the what society ignores. I
Yeah,
think they hold the biggest clues and answers to what is going on in society as a whole.
they
And
do.
so, yes, I started out, I think it was at the junior league of Tucson, but I think our platform was food scarcity in children. That was where it first began. And then
Okay.
it worked into domestic assault. I went into human trafficking at the Tampa International Airport for a year, which was fantastic. I've
Mhm,
done a soup kitchen,
mhm.
diaper banks,
Yep.
rape crisis hotlines. I'm now serving at the South Carolina Department of Corrections. I'm at the
Wow.
men's prison here in South Carolina, which has been so freaking sweet.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm a hospice volunteer, so
Mhm.
I don't know. There's just something about people that Aubrey, I cannot tell you how curious I am about people and why we lead the lives that we do. And I think volunteering has just been a wonderful way for me to understand human behavior. It's taught me far more than any classroom ever has.
Oh, I would completely believe that, 100%, Fran. You do have a heart for service and a heart for volunteering, and it speaks through in vivid colors, loud and clear. That this is what you enjoy doing, coupled with that curiosity, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're so
Yeah.
right. It's the coolest thing I do, and they're the coolest people I'll ever meet for sure.
Wow, absolutely fascinating. So, Fran, how
Thanks.
can the listeners connect with you, learn more about the great work you're doing, and just learn more about Fran?
Sure, and I appreciate your curiosity too. It's felt.
Thank you.
As far as my information goes, I think my website is probably the best resource. It's
Okay.
Fran Frye, FRYE.com.
Okay.
And folks can contact me for a complimentary session. There's all the books that I read on my social media. So there's plenty of resources, and my Instagram link is on there. So I think my website would offer a lot of information for folks to be able to contact me.
Wonderful. FranFrye.com. That's FRYE.com. We will have your web address in the episode show notes so the listeners can click the link, learn more about Fran Frye while listening to Fran Frye in this conversation. Fran, this has been, I said it before, I'll say it again, an absolute delightful conversation. I really appreciate your insights, sharing your vulnerability, your transparency, in this, which could be a quite personal topic, right? So I truly appreciate your insights. You are commended for the great work you do. You are a force of good in the universe. And I truly hope we can stay in touch and maybe bring you back on the show sometime in the near future.
I'd love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, Aubrey. Thank you, everyone.
Likewise. We appreciate you. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And look, you may feel like this at times, but in our daily struggles and adversities, you're not alone. And hope is always around the corner.
Amen.
I humbly ask that you please share this show with someone you know, someone you love who needs motivation, inspiration, and support. And when it all comes down to it, we're all just roadies on this journey of life. But it sure feels good having you on the road with me. Thanks again for listening. We'll chat again soon. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Road to Rediscovery. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at roadtorediscoverypodcast@gmail.com and leave us any questions or comments you may have.